YouTube Zodiacs, what's going on? It's your favorite Gemini, KashDaGemini. I'm back with another video, back with another episode of the Cashing Out Show. This is episode 46. I don't know why it says 45. It's episode 46 of the Cashing Out Show. Today's guest is Erwin. And make sure I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. It's Fenis?
That's right. Yep, you got that spot on,
Okay,
man.
cool,
Yeah.
man, cool. How's it going today?
Yeah, pretty good. Monday morning, so can't complain.
Man.
Yeah.
Dude, that always tricks me up, man. I know my guy Luke might be watching a little bit later, but he's also in Australia. And I'm like, man, let me know if I get a statue today, like tomorrow for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's Sunday. It's Sunday 4:36 right now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy how the world works, man.
I know. I actually got really confused because I thought it was yesterday, right? And then I
Yeah.
saw the post and it said 24 hours, and I completely forgot about the time zones. But yeah, man, glad to be here.
Cool. Definitely, man. Thank you. Before we get started, man, I'm going to say hello to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for coming back. I know it's took a little bit over 3 months off. Happy to be back, finally kind of getting everything ironed out with work and everything. So this is the first time being back. I kind of feel nervous. Like, I'm like, I don't know, I feel nervous, man. I don't know why. But Terry, what's going on? Appreciate you coming here. Edwin Diaz, my guy. Late night trip, what's going on? Warren Dante says, "What's up, Cash and Erwin? Catch it on the rewind. Have a good show, no doubt, man, no doubt." Let's see who else is here. We got Alan Kiefer in the building. What's going on, man? Dennis Perez, what's up? Rome Ross, my Australian guy, man. What's up, Luke? Look at these handsome gentlemen. Hey, Luke is a enabler. Luke is an enabler. I said I'm not gonna buy any statues for 2022. I bought a custom Craven the Hunter. Next thing I knew, hey, the room was getting full, man. Shout out to Luke, man.
It's a slippery slope, that's for sure.
Definitely is, man. Danny Lee, what's going on, man? Appreciate you being here. Looks like we're all caught up with everybody in the crowd, man. Thank you guys again for coming back, man. Just remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And let's go ahead and get started, man. So again, thank you for coming. And it's crazy because I told you, we did a show. It was episode 12 of the Cashing Out Show. It was the holiday episode. Everybody kind of came back together who had previously been on it, was giving out prizes and stuff. And during the picture part, we took the top 50 like man cave statue rooms, whatever. And I remember, and I'm like, yo, like I know this guy. Because like I seen your it's like an office and like you had like Iron Man stuff. And I'm like, yo, that's where you're from. You were on I took your pictures and I put it on the top 50. And I'm like, this setup is clean. And it's crazy how that worked out, man.
Yeah, man. There was, when you reached out the other day, I was quite surprised. And yeah, so this is it. It's my home office. I spend pretty much every day here working from home. And it's hard to imagine I actually get any work done. There's a lot of distractions for sure.
Do you ever like do any like Zoom calls where people have to like see your background and they're like, yo, what's that behind you, man?
Yeah, definitely. I've had a few things. People who's obviously unfamiliar with it. Like I had the Sentinel out the back, and they're like, "Oh, are those Transformers?"
Transformers, man. That's funny.
Yeah, right.
What's going on, H-Stat, Slim Boss? Appreciate you guys for being here. So you have more than one statue room, right?
Yeah,
You have
that's
your
right.
office and other places around the house?
Yeah, so I've got the home office at the moment, which I've kind of, half of our collection, and then the other room next door that's got most of the collection. That's the main room.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what is your focus? Because it seems like for your office, it's pretty clear. It's mostly Iron Man, but I see Avengers. So huge MCU fan. Are you more of a comic person?
Yeah. So I mainly, or actually no, I only collect Marvel pieces. So I started with the MCU sort of line, and that's kind of what I've got here in the office. Obviously, I've got a huge focus on Iron Man, being a bit of an Iron Man nerd. But yeah, so in the home office, I've mainly got the MCU line, and then in the other collection, in the other room, I've got the rest of the comics pieces.
Nice. So just keeping it strictly with Iron Man. Do you feel that Robert Downey Jr. was a perfect cast for Iron Man.
100%, 100%. Look, I really couldn't see anyone else playing it. What a great story as well for him, right?
Oh yeah,
what a comeback. And the studio didn't want to bank on him if it wasn't for the director who really wanted him to be in the movie, and obviously that paid off for both of them. He's kind of laid the platform for the whole MCU. He's the godfather of the MCU now.
Yeah, I like how he kind of transitioned from, the very first film where he's kind of this like party type kid and he's on this like business trip and obviously he gets, stuck over there to all the way fast forward to where he's like more mature and still jokey, obviously with a bunch of satire, but now he's helping out Peter Parker, giving him the suit, kind of like a mentor to him. It's like the maturation process from the very first movie to the very last time we've seen him on screen. I love that we've gotten to kind of like grow with these characters from the beginning to present.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he's probably had one of the, the best arc in the MCU. Like you said, you sort of get to watch him grow from being that loose cannon in the first films, especially I think it was Iron Man 2 where he kind of lost the plot a little bit. And obviously towards the latter stages, having your family, having Morgan, the kids. So
yeah,
it's definitely been a big journey for his character, actually.
Okay, so speaking about the family aspect, did you see the relationship with Pepper Potts? Like, did you kind of figure that was going to happen at some point?
Yeah. I think it was probably written right. They kind of had that dynamic right from the beginning.
Yeah.
They probably didn't really explore it as much as they probably would have liked or should have. But I thought that the way that they did it, was probably what was required for that time anyway.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the cast was perfect. The only thing that kind of I didn't like was Terrence Howard got replaced by Don Cheadle. I don't know. Like, I like them both as actors, but I just was like, why didn't you keep him? But maybe budget. I don't really know exactly what happened there. So I was like, oh man.
Yeah, look, I read a couple of articles around that, and obviously he's even come out and said a few things about how that played out, because I think he had a really big part in RDJ actually landing the role in the first place.
Yeah.
And then when they came around to obviously going for the second movie, apparently there was some things with the budget and how much he was getting paid. So it ended up turning out to be a bit of an ugly exit, apparently.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Crazy. Where would you like to see the MCU go moving forward? I know a lot of people have kind of like lost a little bit of faith, but do you still have hope for the MCU?
Yeah, look, I've got to be honest. Phase 4 wasn't the greatest, but I think that was always going to be expected. I mean, they've kind of set this unprecedented and probably set themselves a impossible, target of trying to replicate what they did in the first sort of 10 years of the MCU. So I feel like Phase 4 was kind of a really transition phase for them. I've got really high hopes for Phase 5 and Phase 6. Hopefully they now start to pick up on, same sort of format that they did for the first 10 years. They can now focus on the next storyline, with obviously leading into Kang Dynasty and their Secret Wars.
Now, so we first saw his character referring to Kang in Loki. Do you like that they've kind of branched off into, like the What If, the She-Hulks, the Captain America, Winter Soldier? Like, do you like that they've like branched off into like mini series, or do you wish it had just stayed strictly film?
I think there's some aspects of it that I really enjoy, and I think it's a good way to sort of tie in between films. But I do feel that's a little bit oversaturated at the moment, and sometimes can feel a little bit rushed as well. And I actually, to be honest, I kind of like the idea of those special presentations that they obviously started doing with. I think the first one was the Werewolf by Night, and then you've got the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. So I think even things like that would probably be a better option to kind of be the fillers between the films as opposed to having a full series. Because I found it in some of the series, most of the episodes were kind of really nothing. There were a few
Yeah.
there were kind of a few episodes where like, did I really get anything from that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. So to ask you a question, as well as the chat, what was your favorite MCU TV series? But also, what was your least favorite to this point?
Oh, the least favorite is that's
Yeah.
easy. Thought Love and Thunder. Absolutely, just did not like that film at all. Went into it really excited, but I just didn't do anything for me. And actually, the more I tried to watch it again, and once it was on Disney Plus, and I couldn't get past the first 10, 15 minutes. It was just way too much for me.
Okay. I wasn't a fan of Loki. I couldn't get into it. I didn't understand what the time variance was. I was also kind of confused with Owen Wilson being in it. I don't know why I was confused. But I was just like, what's Owen Wilson doing here? I love Loki as a character. Love Loki. I actually do you deal with customs, by the way?
I do. Yes.
Okay. Well, got that Loki there,
Yeah, no, that's a sick piece actually.
So
Really
yeah,
cool.
I got the
It's
lights down, but it's there. So I love Loki as a character, but I just did not like that TV show. Every movie that he's been in, I've loved the role. I've loved the acting, the powers, anything that they've kind of done with him. I also feel like the same with Iron Man, the same with Loki. It's the perfect casting for it. Now on the flip side, my favorite. I don't necessarily know from like. I probably would honestly have to say Winter Soldier and Captain America. I felt like Sam's chemistry with Bucky was pretty on par. Plus, it was action in there as well. You can clearly tell without him, like his mind being like warped, that like he doesn't have that same like, I guess you could say, like fight in him. But it's still Winter Soldier, I guess, or it's technically Bucky, but
Yeah, it's really interesting because I'm actually the other way around, right? I really enjoyed Loki. I like that they explored that sort of time variant sort of things. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I enjoyed parts of it, but I really could not connect to the antagonist of the story. You had what they call the flag smashers. I think that's what they were called. I just could not get into them. I thought that, and I also felt like maybe they had too many different storylines that were running through the series. I would have preferred if they just focused on, the story with either Baron Zemo or even John Walker, right? But I think bringing in flag smashers as kind of the main thing, that's where I probably didn't enjoy this series as much. Definitely the relationship and chemistry between Falcon and Bucky, I think was right for me. But yeah, so it just, for me, the villains play such a big role in the films and in the TV series, and I feel like if you don't have a strong villain or an antagonist, it just doesn't work for me.
So you didn't like the fake Captain America? You didn't like that?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. I think again, I felt like he probably didn't really get as much focus as that he probably should have. I would have really loved it if they just focused on that story, and him against the two and him going through that, rather than even throwing the whole flag smashers thing in that.
But I think he'll be back because he's going to be back in the Thunderbolts.
Yeah,
I think he's in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll have a bigger role there. Perhaps.
Yeah. I think so, and hopefully get to see a little bit more of him. But definitely a bit strange seeing him. I was taking on what was meant to be the Captain America, right? Because Chris Evans did such a fantastic job. So
he did. He did, man. Chris Evans did an amazing job as Captain America. Luke says nothing will beat Love and Thunder. You couldn't make a worse movie.
Uh, I'm, I'm with you, man. That was a terrible, terrible film. I did see there was a couple of comments, I think, from Chris Hemsworth himself recently saying that he was really keen to take Thor in a different direction in the next film if he was to come back, and I'm really excited for that. Yeah, because I think that what they did with his character, obviously starting from Ragnarok, and they kind of pushed the boundaries a little bit too much with Thor: Love and Thunder. I'd really like to see go back to a little bit more of that serious tone and a little bit darker, sort of more of that Viking vibe. I think would be great to see.
Yeah. I think when you kind of do like what do you call it? Like a prelude, I think. I think that's what it's called. Like when you go like before, kind of like they're doing with Black Panther. I think that's kind of cool,
Yeah.
But before we take it all the way back, I'm gonna bring up these pictures here, man. I thought these again, same pictures I had shared before. It's something about this space, and ironically, I have a room that's similar size, and it was supposed to just be a walk-in closet, but I don't need it for a walk-in closet anymore. I mean, who needs clothes when you have statues? You know what I'm saying? So I'm actually going to convert it into a small DC room. And I like the fact that it's compact because it means I can't like get any and everything. I have to like really be focused and hone in on like what I truly love with Batman. So I love the fact that about the room. But your setup here, it's clean, it's nice, it's well displayed, well lit. I really do like this. Can you tell us like what made you go with Iron Man, and how long did it take to get to this point in this picture here?
Yeah, thanks, man. Well, see, Iron Man, I actually really got into from the first film. That's kind of where that sort of started, really. But I didn't start collecting until about 4 years ago. So that's when I started, got into the game. And I kind of fell into it by accident. To be honest, the first purchase that I made wasn't even an Iron Man. It wasn't even Marvel, to be honest. So the first piece that I ever bought was the Wonder Woman from Justice League. And that was the Hot Toys. And the reason why I picked it up is I was at an arcade, right? And they had, those things that you can win when you get tickets from the machines, and you exchange it for something. And they had this figure, and it was, I can't remember what it was. And it was like Big Toys or something like that. And I thought, wow, this looks really cool. Actually even looks a little bit like Gal. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll find it and see if I can find it. And then I stumbled across Hot Toys, who I've never heard of before. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. This the quality of some of those things that I saw. So I pre-ordered that one. But as soon as I did, I was like, hang on, why did I get, if I'm going to have a piece like that, I really need to have an Iron Man. And so I picked up my first Hot Toys Iron Man, which was actually one of those Power Post figures. So it wasn't one of those die-cast one. It was the cheaper of the two, because I was like, it took me a while to even kind of get through that whole, do I really want to pay that much for what I considered a toy at the time?
Right.
So then I got that one in, and that was it. I was hooked, and then they came thick and fast. And then I kind of first I started collecting all of the Iron Man suits, and then I thought, hey, some of those Avengers actually look really cool as well. So I started picking up the rest of the Avengers line. And then, as it so often happens, I then fell into the rabbit hole of statues. And
comes quick, man. It comes quick.
Yeah, so something had to give. And so I ended up selling most of my Hot Toys and decided to just keep the Iron Man, because I really like them as a set, as a collection. I think they look amazing. And yeah, so the room, it's kind of just been constantly evolving, as things come in, and I have to move things around. And also, because the other room is starting to get a little bit packed as well, I've had to then move some of them here. And so I decided that I was going to make this room focus mainly on the MCU, which obviously you can see that's kind of now been broken with the X-Men having to be moved into this room just because it didn't have the space in the other room.
Hey, even though these are comic X-Men, the X-Men technically are coming to the MCU. So
exactly.
just being proactive, man.
That's it.
Yeah. Um, I- the thing that the thing I like the most, honestly, is just the continuity in the collection room. I like that the most. Like I've been the past week, I've been trying to figure out, okay, how can I have my computer set up into that room as well as fit like what I want to fit in there. Do you ever feel like there's certain things that you can't get, not necessarily due to money, but just space? Or do you feel like I'll find somewhere for it to fit?
Oh, definitely, definitely, and I think that's now becoming more and more, the thing for me. Space is probably the biggest challenge for a lot of collectors, right? So you've got to start, especially once things starts to fill up, you've got to start getting a little bit more selective with what you bring in. But not only the display space, but also just where to put all the boxes, because some of these things come in huge boxes.
Oh
So
man, yeah. So I gotta talk to you about boxes, man. We had a collector named Sunny Art. I
mm,
can't remember the episode of what he was on the show. Maybe episode 41. I can't remember. He gets rid of all of his boxes, and I don't ever have like a, I guess like, oh, I'm gonna ask this question at this minute and this minute. I kind of go with the flow of the guest.
mm,
But when he made that comment, it didn't matter if I had a script or not. Like it all went out the window because everybody in the chat, myself, we couldn't believe it. Like you
mm.
literally buy an Iron Man, for example, the second you open it, you take the box to the dumpster. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Um, but I'm starting to run out of space to store these boxes.
Yeah,
So it's like, do I buy a storage unit? Do I like what do you do after a while?
yeah. Look, I was kind of the same, right? So I was living in a two-bedroom apartment at one point. So I had all these boxes, didn't really have anywhere to store them. So I actually had to rent a storage unit just to put the boxes in. Then we moved to this place, which is obviously a lot bigger. I've got a lock-up garage that I can put most of my boxes. But even then, half of my garage is now filled with boxes that
Yeah.
I'll having to park my car outside just because otherwise I can't fit it in there.
Yep.
Yeah, so boxes are definitely a challenge, especially when you're collecting quarter scale statues, and they seem to keep getting bigger and bigger now. But yeah, so I think you've kind of just got to weigh out, right? I mean, some people who probably so sure that they'll never sell or whatever, they're
Yep.
probably comfortable with getting rid of boxes. I definitely couldn't do it, not because I'm planning on selling, but for me it's just having that security if I do decide to sell, that I can put it in there, because I think it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you've got to spend extra cash to try and find somewhere to put them, then you kind of have to weigh it out.
Okay, so how can I ask this? When do you know is the right time to where it's like, hey, I've had this Iron Man. It's my favorite statue. This
Mm.
one I'm not getting rid of. Is there a certain point in time where you can say, barring something catastrophic, I'm not moving either. So do
Mm.
I really need the box? Not saying you throw all of them away, but like, for those set ones, like, do you ever get to that point where you can throw them away?
I haven't yet, but I have done it for other things. Like I've got other stuff in my collection. Like, for example, I've got the prop replicas and things like that.
Yeah.
I get rid of the boxes because I don't think it's as crucial.
Oh
Whereas
no, I wouldn't think so.
like statues and things like that, I haven't gotten to that stage yet. I actually really hate selling. It's such a pain in the ass. I have sold a few pieces before, but mainly the hot toys, so they're much easier to offload than your bigger statues. So yeah, I haven't gone to that point yet, but I'm
Yeah.
sure eventually I will. There's probably a handful of pieces in my collection that I know for sure if I was to ever get out of the game that I would probably want to hold on to them.
Mhm.
But yeah, anything can change, right?
Hey, anything could change, man. And speaking of change, right? Speaking of change, so a little personal question, if you will. Do you happen to be single, in a
No,
relationship?
In a relationship, yes.
Okay, so in your relationship, how is this perceived? Is it perceived as, damn, you're crazy? Or is it perceived as, hey, it keeps him happy?
Probably a bit of both, to be honest.
A bit of both.
Bit of both. Look, my partner, she's awesome. She even helps me out with ideas sometimes if I'm a little bit stuck, particularly with display. I'm big on how I display things. I think for me, that's
Yeah.
part of collecting is, how I set up the collection.
Yep.
And oftentimes I'll get a little bit stuck and I'm like, I don't really know what to do. I don't know if this looks good here. So I'll go to her and she'll give me some advice. And more often than not, she's right. So, she's that. But then she would, like, for example, she would never, ever buy me one of these things. And she also doesn't really care. She doesn't want to know.
Oh, man.
She doesn't care about how to spend on them. She kind of just, doesn't care about that. So, not that she doesn't care, she probably doesn't want to know because it'll probably drive her crazy if she knew. But yeah, no, she's really cool.
Yeah, that's how I am as well. My lady, she helps me hang up all the art prints on the wall. She gives me ideas because I'll be like, should I get rid of this? Should I keep this? You know what I mean? And I'll just talk with her. I find myself like more and more just kind of asking, you know what I mean? Just asking more and more.
Yeah, she just have a couple of rules. So one, not allowed to have anything in the bedroom. That's one thing. And then now that we've moved to this bigger space, everything stays up here in the 2 collection room. Nothing feeds, downstairs in the lounge because that's her area, or that's our area.
Okay.
This is my space.
So you have a set space. It's like, look, this is my space. I could do whatever I want as long as it doesn't cross over.
Yep, 100%.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so hold on. I tried to push the limits. I kind of have that same rule, that same rule. So I pushed the limits. We watched Guardians of the Galaxy together. She's big on plants. I think you know where I'm going with this. Yeah. So I'm like, I was looking online. I'm like, okay, they have something for Groot. Oh, they have something for Groot with plants, mind you. So I bought her something to put on her plant shelf, and I'm like, okay, Groot is on there. Maybe I could buy a poison ivy, poison ivy. Like just to push the limits and see. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I could buy a swamp thing. Just to push those limits. It's all plants. It's all plants, man. It's all plants. Man.
I like the way you think. How's that panning out?
Actually, the Groot lasted there for a little bit in our plant shelf, but now it's in the garage. It's in the garage, man.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey, I tried, man. I tried. It's all good though, man.
Yeah, you gotta try.
Yeah. So, man, just going all the way back to memory lane. Tell me a little bit about you growing up. What was your first introductions when it came to characters? Like, what was that first character that you truly loved from being a little boy?
X-Men, man. Like 90s animated series X-Men. I remember I was still living in the Philippines. Me and my cousins would be outside playing. As soon as that theme song comes on, you hear it. Runs back home, plonk ourselves in front of the TV to watch. I even had all the whole series in like VHS, man. That's how old school this was, right? So X-Men for me growing up was definitely a big one, and then I was also a huge like Dragon Ball Z fan growing up. So that's kind of where a lot of that sort of stems from. I've gone away from Dragon Ball Z a fair bit now, but X-Men, you probably seen it in my collection. They're still a big part of the collection.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pull this up real quick. I just gotta do it because you said it, man. We'll let it play for a little bit, man. Who doesn't love this, man?
Never gets old, man. Never gets old.
Hey, man, when Wolverine was like, "What's up, bub?" Oh man, I'm just saying.
I really hope that they keep this. I mean, they've used it already a couple of times, right, in the MCU. so I'd love for them to keep that because I know they announced the X-Men 97 series obviously coming back. So
yeah, coming back.
really
Can't wait. Can't wait. I'm actually gonna go and rewatch all the old series again. Hopefully before the year is over, I'll get a chance to go back and check it all out. It's been a long time for me. So I definitely need that refresher before the new one starts. And
yeah, I'm halfway
really
through doing
excited.
that right now, actually, through Disney Plus.
Nice,
You know, I started
nice,
rewatching. So.
nice, man. That's really cool. That's really cool. Ironically, X-Men and Spider-Man were mine. So I'm a huge X-Men fan from growing up. The second half of my room is nothing but X-Men, and then this side is Spider-Man, and then dead set in the middle. It's just a little bit of Silver Surfer, Doctor Doom with Loki, just a couple of those main characters I love in the middle. But that's pretty much my main setup out here. So I love X-Men. And who's your favorite X-Men?
Whoa,
Number one favorite.
Yeah, look, that's a hard one. If I think what you'd asked me before, I would have definitely said Wolverine, but I think as that kind of changed a little bit, I'm actually a really big fan of Gambit. Just love Gambit is dope, man. He's just such a great character.
Hey, okay, so do you know Spec Fiction, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Spec Fiction was on here. My guy Ty Johnson was on here, and we talked about that. We said, hey man, why doesn't Gambit get enough love? I love Gambit. Gambit should have had a movie already, like
100%. Well, they did him dirty though in that one that they did.
Oh, the one with
the Wolverine, I think it was.
Yeah, where he was like climbing up the wall and
oh man.
Like that little scene what gave me hope. I'm like, oh snaps, man! Like it gave me hope, but it just never happened with Channing Tatum.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Though. I mean, now that hopefully they'll be in the MCU, you know, that he'll actually get a little bit of love.
Yeah, hopefully so, man. Hopefully so. Is there anyone like family member at all? Still as being a little one. At that time, was there anyone family member that you kind of shared this passion of these characters with, or kids at school or anything like that?
Oh, look, just mainly like cousins and stuff like that. My little sister, she's like 10 years younger than me. She's also into a lot of this pop culture stuff, right? But she's sort of more growing up. She was like Harry Potter, Pokemon, all those type of things, which is she's still really into.
Gryffindor.
Yeah, exactly. Big fan of Cap though, so that's her character. Yeah. My dad is a huge Black Panther fan, like absolutely loves Black Panther. So yeah, look, I've come from a family of a bit of nerds, so which is it helps because then I can do that. I don't get judged or anything. They actually come here, check out the collection, and
nice
it as well.
Nice, man. That sounds really cool, man. I want to bring this picture up here as well. I see a lot going on in here, and I love all the pictures that I'm seeing. Let's see here. First of all, like I love how it's just like this strip. I love how it's a strip and it's just like you're just walking down the strip. I love it, man. What made you go with these specific customs? And I'm talking mainly about the Surfer and the Panther. What made you go with those two?
Oh, I just think that the customs tend to push the boundaries a little bit when it comes to concept design than some of your licensed pieces, right? Obviously, with the license, they've got to go through a whole range of approvals and things like that.
Yeah.
That can sometimes, I think, limit their potential of.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think most of my X-Men line is from Sideshow. I think they do a fantastic job, but it's just something about the customs that I think, they can push out some of the concepts a little bit further than your licensed pieces. But it could also go the other way. I think some of the customs, a bit of a gamble, right? You never know how they're going to turn out depending on who's producing it and whatnot. So,
yeah. From that same group with the Panther there, I have the Blade coming. I'm very excited for Blade. Do you have that one coming or?
No, I don't have that one, but that looks awesome. The Throne one, yeah?
Yeah, can't wait for that. And then I have Craven the Hunter coming. Both me and Luke got that coming actually. Very excited for Craven. It just like you said, like I didn't like what they did with XM Craven. Like I felt it was lackluster. The concept, the paint, and it didn't compare because if you check out their other Spider-Man stuff, it's amazing. Like their Electro, their Kingpin, Doc Ock, like all those other statues are really really amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Luke and I, it's funny because we tend to always pick up the same, statues, right? So he's based, I think he's in Melbourne, and I'm in Sydney, and so often, when we order pieces, we'll get them,
Yeah,
around the same time. But yeah, we've got a few pieces the same. So I think he's got the Apocalypse, he's got the Juggernaut, both custom pieces.
So is this Apocalypse here? Is this pretty new?
Yeah, so that one took forever actually. I got in on that piece quite late, but from what I hear, it took like almost 2-3 years for it to actually get produced, and there's a little bit of issues with the factory not sending them out when they said they were during the Chinese New Year break, and then there was a little bit of a nightmare trying to get that one in. But once I did, I quite like that piece. It's huge.
Yeah, it looks pretty big, man. I'm actually thinking about picking up the XM Studios Apocalypse.
Yeah.
I think this one came with like, is this the one that comes with like 7 swap out portraits?
Yeah, it came with like
Wow,
a huge number of portraits, but then I think it came in two like you can get them as option packs that you add to it. So I didn't go for them because there were some of the other portraits that I wasn't ever going to display. So I just decided to go for I think it was option 1, because they had a few others. But the portraits that I liked, they were all part of the same bunch, so it was good.
So we got a question from you from Exquisite Statues. It says, "Are you following Australia in the World Cup? Awesome setup, dude."
Yeah, thanks, man. Look, I haven't really been following too much. I did catch the last game, which was good. So I think it's their first win since 2010, I think, in the World Cup group stages. So fingers crossed they pull out another win and they can make it to the next group.
Nice.
But it's gonna be tough, man. Going up against Denmark, it's not going to be easy, that's for sure.
Yeah, man. The World Cup is crazy, especially with like the if you're a Ronaldo fan with the like whatever's going on there. So
it's
it's
been an interesting World Cup for sure. There's been a lot of different talking points, and not all of it obviously is about football.
Nice, man.
Can I just say, I just noticed that your intro, right?
Yeah.
The last photo that you have of him, I was like, that's actually my art print.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
That's where the channel logo came from, and I was just about to bring that up. So I'm glad you mentioned it. I'll go ahead and get these pulled up now. I was just like, yo, you actually have what I made the channel logo from, which is really, really crazy. Doom is one of my top characters. I can't say enough about Doom. I think Doom is the ultimate Marvel villain. Like I don't think there gets any better. For my top 3, I got Doom, Magneto, Loki. I don't think you get any higher than those 3 for me personally. 4 and 5, I have Doc Ock and Green Goblin. I'm not a huge Thanos fan like that, in terms of like above those. But for me, like I said, Doom, Magneto, Loki are my top 3.
Yep.
Yeah, but hey, it's crazy. You're the first person who caught that, man. The first person who caught that.
Yeah, because I actually made that art print. I took a photo of this piece,
right,
where it was repainted, and then so that's one of the things that I love doing as well is I'll take a photo of the piece and then I'll create an art print for them. And so the one that you've got where you've got the thunder going across, that's something actually I made.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Holy cow. Oh man, dude, that's what's up, man. That's what's up.
Yeah, really cool, man. But yeah, look, I got this piece repainted recently. I absolutely loved
Yeah.
how it turned out. Reason why I got it repainted is that I picked up the Doom on Throne not long ago, and then I already had a Silver Surfer, so I thought maybe I'll offload this one. But then I thought, you know what, I'll just get it repainted to a different version of the two characters, and so I went with God Emperor Doom and obviously the Silver Surfer Black, and I thought worked really nicely together with the contrast and the colors, and got the base repainted as well. So absolutely stoked with how that turned out. So shout out to my man Nick from Bazaar Customs, man. He absolutely killed it with this piece.
No, it looks amazing. I don't think a lot of people picked up this statue like in its original form.
Mm.
I think it's like a sleeper statue. You're pretty much getting two characters
Yep.
in one. And I think it's really nice. I like how he has his arm raised up and kind of in like a triumph
Mm.
pose. I really like that. Plus, you still have the board there as well. Really, really nice. Really, really nice. Are you a is Doom one of your top characters?
He wasn't originally, but I think the more that I start to learn a little bit more about his character, the more I'm starting to really appreciate Doom. Like you
Hmm.
said, it's probably one of the ultimate villains, right, in the Marvel universe. I mean, he's had such a different sort of stories come through, and I've just started to read up on comics as well. So yeah, he's definitely one not to mess with. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yeah, I just started reading comics because as a kid, I never read comics. So
Mm.
my introduction to characters came from video games, animated series, movies, um, coloring books, art prints, posters. That was my introduction to these characters. So far as like the original concept design stories, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, I couldn't tell you
Mm.
anything about it. So I recently, because of the statue community, I recently got into wanting to get comic books, CGCs, Mighty Masterworks, Epic Collections, looking at Omnibus, like things like that to
Mm.
learn about these characters that I actually love. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, same here. I definitely wasn't a big comic reader growing up, and same as you, man. I learned a lot about these characters through games and TV series and things like that, and movies. But it's good though because now you sort of get to go back and learn a little bit
Yeah.
more their history, and see how their characters sort of develop. And some of the storylines, you think, gosh, if I was reading this when I was a kid, half of it probably wouldn't make any sense to me, right? It would have just gone straight over my head. And whereas now you can appreciate it a little bit more. And some of them are pretty brutal too, man. And it's
Dude, yeah, some of it is like really timeless. Like for Spider-Man, they'll be like, "Hey, man, we see the tricks you're doing on the Ed Sullivan show." So it's kind of like outdated, but it's just funny, like reading that.
yeah, for sure.
Crazy, man, crazy. On this piece here, how long did it take for this process to get painted and back to you?
Um, ooh. It was actually a funny story because I dropped this off to Nick, who is a mate of mine. And the same night that I dropped it off, his partner went into labor. So while I was over at his place, dropping this piece off, he was like, "Oh, my partner, I think she's going through labor." And so later on that night, he messaged me and say, "Hey, mate, we're in full labor now. We're in hospital." So the next day they had a baby, and so obviously he has hands full for a good couple of weeks. But I think it only took him maybe a month, maybe five
Nice.
6 weeks after I dropped it off. So
Yeah.
yeah, he did an amazing job with the piece. This is
Yeah.
actually the second piece that he's repainted for me. The first one was a custom Logan as well,
Okay.
uh, and killed it with that one. And so as soon as I decided that I wanted to get this repainted, I was like, "Yep, next to man for this."
Yeah. How do you like the cape on this one here?
Oh, I actually really like it. It's I like the way that it's sculpted. What I found with the original version is that they went a little bit crazy with the shading. It was a little bit
Mm.
too much, so it kind of looked a little bit busy. But the sculpt, the way that it flows, it's obviously I prefer sculpted cape than mixed media. I think
Oh
they did
man.
a great job. It's solid, but it's not too heavy where I've got I'm worried that it's gonna you know break or it's going to have leaning issues or anything like that. But yeah, I'm actually a big fan of this piece. As soon as I saw it go up for pre-order, I was like, at the time I was thinking I needed to do in my collection. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, yep, that's the one that I'm going to get. So I jumped on this pretty quick.
Nice, nice. Yeah, when I saw that you had put it up here, and you were showing the transitional repaint from the original to the repaint, I was just like, wow. And then that's when I like the two kind of came together, and I'm like, yo, that's literally what I used for the for the show stuff. So I'm like, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, man.
And it was just crazy because I was like asking you to come on. I'm like, wait, I've seen your room before. So, like, I know this
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah, because when you sent me that video, I think it was with the interview with Luke.
Yeah.
And I saw the intro. I was like, whoa! I'm like, cool, man. That's the art print there, loving it.
Nice, man. Nice. So, dude, we're about halfway through the show. And as the audience probably knows, man, I appreciate you guys for coming through, obviously. As the audience knows what comes halfway through the show. So, in the collecting community, we have some ups, we have some downs, we have some good times and bad times. Sometimes you may miss out on a piece. A sculptor doesn't really do what they're supposed to do, or a sale doesn't go the way it's supposed to do. I watch a lot of Family Guy, a la, what really grinds my gears. I call it Now You Know here on the show. Is there anything, and I mean anything, you want to get off your chest that you want the community to know? Is there something that you just wish would change? Is it shipping should be lower? Statues should come out quicker? Like what do you want to get off your chest about collecting, man?
Yeah, look, it's all those, but for me, the main thing is that I feel that the market is oversaturated with the same damn characters. Like how many Wolverines do we need? Like how many Magnetos do we need, right? I mean, some of them look, don't get me wrong, there's some awesome pieces out there, but because it's now getting to a point where there's so many of them, they're starting to look very similar from each other.
Yeah.
Yet you've got some of these other amazing characters that just never gets made. And when they finally do, there's just not enough people to actually get in on it, that they end up getting cancelled, right? And then it frustrates me because usually you'll have a lot of collectors saying, hey, we need this character, we need this character, we need this character. And then, a custom studio would jump in and do something, but then it just never takes off because there's just not enough interest. And so what we end up with is just the same characters being made over and over again. And again, that's something that we drive as collectors because we just keep buying the same pieces, and it's also hard too, because then some of these pieces that come on, they're awesome. And then you might have picked up one not long ago of the same character, but then something else comes out that is, better or more superior or whatever. Then you've got to try and think, do I get rid of the one that I just bought and jump in on this one? But then 2 months later, there's probably going to be another one that's going to come out that could be better. So yeah, I think for me, if anything could change, it would be that we get more of the lesser known characters in the game, because I think there's just far too many of the same characters being made.
No, I agree. I've been pushing for a Bullseye as well as a Shocker with Spider-Man villains. I've been pushing for those two characters for a while now. At this point, I don't even care who does them. Like it could be Sideshow, XM, Prime One. Like I don't even care. You custom, it doesn't even matter to me at this point. Like I want a Bullseye, I want a Shocker, and I get it. Shocker isn't the most spectacular Spider-Man villain, but to me as a kid, he was the one that was in the animated series a lot. Like that's who I want as a character. Bullseye, like I think that's a huge Daredevil enemy. Goes up against Daredevil, goes up against Punisher, Spider-Man. Like I want a Bullseye, but like you said, like the licensed companies won't do it because they won't get the backing for it, but then the customs do it, and then they'll only need like 20, 30, 40 people in on it, but they'll get 5 to 10 people in on it. Then they're just like, well, hey, we can't do it.
Yeah, 100%. And the same, characters like Pyro, Blob, Toad, Avalanche. These are characters. They're not main characters, but when you put them together with, as an ensemble, they're such a great piece. It's great characters. You think about the Brotherhood, right? How many Magnetos do we have now currently out in the market, but also being produced? Yet you don't get any of the companion pieces that go.
Toad. We've never gotten a Toad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Even from Iron Studios, which I was surprised on because they did Pyro and Blob. They did a
yeah,
bunch of the Brotherhood, but nobody
yeah.
did. And I'm like, what the heck?
I
No
know
Toad?
it's crazy. Yeah, actually, I would love to see some of the pieces that Iron Studios produce as part of their 1/10 line. You know, the Sentinel
Yeah.
versus X-Men. I'd love to see those in quarter scale.
Oh, I pick up a quarter Pyro instantly.
Yeah,
Instantly. I like even if it was the same exact statue just
yeah,
blown up but more
100%.
detail. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I pick it up.
yeah. Give me Pyro, give me Blob. I'll be happy.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, man. I agree. I think that if there was one thing I could change is, and I've said this before, I want companies to kind of like a fan appreciation week to where we get to take a poll, and it may not go on your individual favor for the character you want, but let the community do a poll of characters that just haven't been done. In
Mm.
one time, once a year, we get a quarter scale. I don't know, pyro, well, whatever it will be,
And
and that's
voting.
the one that the fans got.
Yeah.
And then we get to vote on who we think is the best sculptor that they should commission to do it.
Mm.
Daniel Bell or whoever the heck that they want to have do it. And I'd be
Yes.
like, yo, that's cool. You guys are finally listening to us. It may not be the one I wanted, but you're
Mm.
finally listening to us.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea, man. I think that you're right. More licensed companies should start doing it. Custom groups, obviously, that they do it. But again, the challenge is that people often would say, "Yeah, we want the piece," and then the piece gets done, and nobody
You know
jumps on.
what?
Yeah.
And speaking on that, the same group with your Panther, I know the commissioner, so I said, hey man, could we get a Luke Cage, a Power Man? And he said, I've actually thought about doing that before, but besides me and you,
Yeah.
and so even with a fan with a custom, it's not going to happen for some characters.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of driven by us as collectors, right? It's that I think we often get caught up in the hype, because let's face it, when a character is hot, it's hot. They'll just keep making the same thing. Yeah, look, I'm a huge Iron Man fan, but one of the reasons why I moved away from Hot Toys is that they just won't let it go. I mean, how many
Yeah,
Iron Man, versions of the same suits that they want to produce, and reissue of the same suits and whatnot. But it's because it's what makes money. It's what
yeah,
brings in the purchases and the pre-orders. And I get it; they're a business and they've got to do that. But I think for us as collectors, it's definitely be good to have some variations.
nice, nice. So, what would you say is like your go-to company that you look for? Whatever piece that they're designing, even if you don't buy it, but like that one go-to company or sculptor that you're like, oh, it's his name or it's that company. I'm at least gonna look at it at the pictures.
I don't know if I really have one. I mean, I've got a pretty diverse sort of collection where
Yeah,
I've got Sidestone, a couple of XMs, Iron Studios, a lot of customs, of course. I kind of just base it off really on the art.
all
If I
right,
see
okay,
something that I like, whether it's concept, design, whatever it is, I kind of go for it. It doesn't really bother me who sculpted it, who's producing it. It's for me, it's whether it actually connects with me. I tend to not want to get caught up on just buying something because it's produced by a certain company or because it's made by a certain sculptor, which I know some collectors do, and then that could be because they really like that sculptor's work or whatever it may be, or they could be just a really big fan of the company that's producing it. But for me, I just let the piece speak for itself. It doesn't matter who it's from.
yeah. So would you say like with the collection that I see from this picture right here, is there
Yeah.
any character in here that you could see like, you know what? If push came to shove, I'd get rid of this one to sell for another character or to make
Yep.
room or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I have thought about that a few times. So, X23, probably not someone who I'd, really have a big sort of connection with. I bought that
Yeah.
one as part of a sort of package deal and obviously
Oh,
pairs
okay.
with Wolverine. And so I picked that one up. But yeah, I think push comes to shove, it's probably one that I would consider offloading for another piece that, I'd be more keen for.
Who is this? Who did this Iceman?
That one, I believe it's a custom studio.
That's a custom?
They're still around. It's an
Nice.
older piece, and actually a good friend of mine, was kind enough to let me take that off his hands, and I
Nice.
still think it's one of the best
Yeah, I've
Iceman.
never seen it. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it's really cool. Love how dynamic it is. Love how they went with the translucent, sort of body
Yeah.
with the and I was worried because I know a lot of the times with this type of thing, the eyes would get a little bit yellow,
Hmm.
but that hasn't happened yet on this piece. So
That's
yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah.
That's real good, man.
RJ actually, he was the one that gave me this piece. So
Nice. Nice. Do you feel like every collector has that like one or two pieces that they're just like, hey, if push comes to shove, like that is a piece I'm letting go? Like, do you think we all have that in the back of our minds, even though we don't really want that?
yeah, I think so. I think there's always going to be a piece that would be worth more to you, not necessarily money or cost wise, but I think more from a want, that there's always going to be something else that would weigh more than something that you've already got in your collection.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, for me, every time I kind of like look through the collection, I'll say, hey, I think I've come to that point where everything is concrete. I don't see anything else that could potentially move.
Mm.
Uh, but recently, maybe you could give me some advice on something. So I have two separate rooms, right? Two separate rooms. So the smaller room is going to be nothing but Gotham characters. I'm pretty set on that. It's
Cool.
cut and dry, cool. This room is going to be nothing but Marvel. However, I have my Predator in here, which I'm going to move elsewhere. It's perfectly fine, whatever. But beneath my Predator, I have some original horror characters, Freddy, Michael, Jason, all 1/4, as well as their 1/10 Iron Studios counterpart.
Mm.
I'm kind of thinking now maybe I sell all the horror stuff. Like I keep the Predator, but I sell all the horror stuff
Mm.
because it would be boxed up for 3 years until I get the last section of the basement.
Yep.
I'm kind of thinking about it. Like I love those characters. I will always love those. I mean, for me, they're the original characters, so I'll
Mm.
always love them. But I'm just kind of like, damn, you know what I'm saying? Like, what would you recommend?
Yeah, look, I think for me that's why I kind of try and keep everything either themed or stick to a specific line, because it makes it easy for me to sort of pick what I bring in and what I don't, right? Um, and I always thought that if there was a piece that I'd be willing to put in a box and put in storage for potentially months at a time, then it's probably not a piece that I'm going to miss if I were to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have done that in the past where I've kind of, especially when I moved, I had a couple of pieces that I put back in the box, but I just never set up again when I set up the new spot. And I thought, well, if I'm not missing them in my collection and they're just sitting in my storage, then I would rather offload them and put that funds towards something else that I actually want to have displayed in my collection. But it's hard because when you go down that line, and I think if it's one or two pieces, then maybe it's okay. But when you've got a whole line of them, then you think, oh,
See,
maybe I
that's
should.
the thing. It's only three. It's literally it's Michael, Freddy, Jason,
Yeah,
and it's the Iron Studio 1/10 to go with them as well. So it's a total of 5 pieces total.
yeah.
And so I guess a better question would be, do you feel if you have a connection to something, you have to have a piece of it? Like if you really are a fan of Captain America, do you have to have a Captain America statue?
Uh,
If your whole focus was DC, do
yeah.
you feel like you need a Captain America? But in the statue world, you're a DC collector, not a Marvel collector,
Yeah,
because that's
yeah.
your
Look,
focus.
it's a tough one. I think that having that connection with a character, you're always going to want to have a representation of that character in your collection. one way or another. But it maybe doesn't have to be a statue, right? Maybe it doesn't have to be in that form. Maybe it could be something else. But yeah, I always found that for me, like I said, I mainly collect Marvel, but there's some DC pieces where I think, oh, this would look really cool to bring into my collection. But then if I do, I just feel like I'll be doing the piece disjustice, but also I think that it would just create a whole lot of headache for me trying to figure out where to fit it. Right. So I'll give you a really good example of this. I've got one of my pieces that I've got now, which is the Logan piece. Love it. Okay. Really cool. But it doesn't really fit in any of the themes that I have. So I can't really put him with the rest of the X-Men because he just looks so different.
Right.
Yeah. I can't really put him with the rest of the comics or the Marvel pieces because, again, he doesn't fit. He's got a very unique look and style to him. So I'm now kind of stuck at a thing where I don't know where I've got to display him. So I've got to find a specific place for him so that he still stands out, but he doesn't take away from the rest of the set or the collection.
Yeah.
So, I'm huge on displayability and how they all look, not only as individual pieces, but as a collective. And if something is in there that doesn't add or actually takes away from the look of what I've got going, then that for me becomes a bit of a challenge and a problem, and I've more often than not I'll take that piece out and move him somewhere else. And that's kind of what happened with the Sentinel pieces, right? I love them, and actually they were sort of the centerpiece in the main collection room.
Mm-hmm.
But there was just something that always bothered me about the size difference, being a 1/10 scale piece with a lot of all the other quarter scale. I just thought, no, you know what, I'd rather use that space for something else that would fit that room better. Right. And move this piece to the other room.
Yeah. I kind of had that same problem. I went back and forth with Iron Studios versus quarter scale. I ultimately chose quarter scale, but I still have a couple of them, like Storm, Jean Grey, Cyclops. I have a couple of them, Quicksilver, that I'll be getting, and I'm gonna put them on like a wall shelf to where they're separated. So I'll probably end up only having like 10 of the X-Men in from Iron Studios. But I love their product of what they're doing. I just feel like when it does come with this horror stuff, I'm just trying to like get that middle ground of like, do I need to hold on to something that will definitely be in the box for X amount of years? And the reason why is because the last part of the basement I will get after a certain point in time. And I was just going to turn it into a movie theater. And I was just like, I love Predator. So why not just make the whole room Predator sci-fi themed? If anything else went in there, obviously like some aliens or something like that, but mostly just Predator. And I was just like, I love Freddy and all them, but I've had them long enough to where I feel like I can kind of move on from them now and use those funds now to maybe finish up my X-Men line or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, if you could see other pieces taking their spot and you think, that's actually going to make me, appreciate them more, then I think that's probably the way to go. And the great thing is that you could always potentially revisit them again later down the track. Well, I think with collecting, it always changes, and I think sometimes you've got to do that to keep the passion in it, because I think once you hold on to something for too long, unless it's something that's really, really close to your heart or whatever, that it probably starts to lose a little bit of that, because other things come in and your focus might change, your interest might change, and so I think it's really important that you continuously feed that passion, but also make sure that you don't get away from what sort of got you into it.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, I love horror, but I also feel like from a visual standpoint, the horror stuff just doesn't top Predators the way that they look.
Yeah.
From a statue standpoint, they just don't.
Oh yeah.
And I'd rather have a Predator room than a room of like Jason, Freddy, Michael, Pumpkinhead, whatever other character. I'd rather have a room of Predators. Like it just doesn't aesthetically top it, in my opinion. And how long Prime 1 takes, for example, the new Predator that they showed, the Berserker Predator, I mean, that Predator won't even be out for another 2 years, which would be around the time I'd be getting the room. So it's kind of like it just intertwines.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, it's not just those three pieces, but you think about if they were to bring something else in, what does that look like? Because could you, for example, could you build out a collection around those three pieces that you have now against what you could do with something like a Predator line, for example?
Truthfully, I don't think so, because I'm not old enough to really appreciate other older horror. You know what I mean? Like I know characters such as like Hammer horror from like Dracula, Van Helsing, but I don't have the nostalgic like how we have for X-Men, to where I appreciate, Christopher and those actors, but the appreciation and the love isn't as high as other things. Predator, I remember being 3 years old and my great grandpa was sitting on the couch watching that. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's just something that I've always seen, I've always loved. And the very first time I got a statue, I was just like, holy cow. Like, dude, even like if I move this over here 1 second, like even when I like look at like something like this, it's just like, like, damn, man,
Yeah, man.
Like, it's crazy.
Well, that's it. Right? I mean, collecting it really should be about what triggers something. When you look at it, it actually either gives you like this big nostalgic feeling, or gets you excited about looking forward to the next piece that you could add to that line, or whatever. That's sick, man. What are they their switch outs, or are they actual just?
Oh yeah, switch outs. It's different heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this one came with 4 heads actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really cool, man.
I think visually the Predators obviously trumps the other 3, but that's subjective, right? I know there's some hardcore horror fans that would love to have those pieces in their collection. So I guess it really just depends on where you're at the moment with your collection, and also where you want to take it forward, right? Because sometimes you can just think about what you have now and the setup that you have now, but if you're thinking about shifting to a different line moving forward, then maybe something has to give. I've kind of had to make some of those decisions myself when I moved away from hot toys and kind of
did you regret it at all, or were you kind of like, hey, I enjoyed them at that time, this is better?
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of how I look at it. At some point I enjoyed them and really appreciated them, but it was time to move on to something else that I know I appreciate now a little bit more. And no, I don't regret it at all. I don't think I've ever regretted a sale that I've made.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had to sell a lot though?
Not from my statue collection. The ones that I have, actually, have I ever sold a statue? I've sold one statue, and that was because it was based by a better version of that character. So I had Thanos from Endgame, and then Queen Studios brought out theirs. And so, that was an easy decision for me. But it was mainly just my hot toys, only purely because I had moved away from collecting that line, the 1/6 scale, and moving to statues, and that's kind of the main reason why I started selling them. But you're right, it's hard, man. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. So looking at this picture here, this is one that I've heard. I've never seen this in person. Actually, 1 second. Okay, that backdrop is crazy. I like that. Sorry, that caught me off guard. This Magneto, I've heard like it's so deep. But obviously I see that you still have this one.
Yeah.
Did this one catch you by surprise in person? Because it's just like, holy cow, this is really Magneto.
Yeah.
As a whole sentinel using his throne.
Yeah, for sure. I knew it was going to be a big piece, right? Because they had obviously the dimensions before it was actually released. But when I first got it and I unboxed it, I was shocked at how huge that thing is. Actually, I think I even posted a photo of me holding it. That's just the head of the Sentinel. And it's freaking massive. It's like bigger than my head. So, but yeah, putting it together, and that was one of the things, right? Trying to find somewhere to display it is quite a challenge because it is very, very deep.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing too with a lot of this custom pieces is that
Oh
you're
man.
limited to how you can display them because they're just so huge.
Yeah, that's what I noticed with Loki. I was just like, I did not see that coming at
Yeah.
all. Like I was just like, I knew he was gonna have like a throne behind him and these pillars and stuff, but I had no clue. Like, oh yeah, this statue is taking up basically the space of two of them. I did not think that.
Yeah, definitely.
Crazy. So it kind of has me like thinking like, hey, is Blade really gonna be bigger than what I anticipate? And I think it is going to be bigger than
Yeah.
I
Well,
anticipate.
generally, those throne pieces they just take up a lot of real estate. So I'm actually now starting to, again, that's kind of shifted a little bit over the years. When I first got into it, I was all about dynamic pieces, huge bases, they're really elaborate. But now, as space becomes a bit more of a challenge, I start to really appreciate some of the more museum type pieces where it's really streamlined, small
Mhm.
footprint, but could still look really nice and still command a lot of attention.
Yeah.
So I'm now starting to appreciate those more and more. Whereas previously I would have looked at a piece if it was a museum and been like, yeah, it's okay for me, a little bit bland. But now I'm starting to appreciate some of those, and again, they could still command a lot of presence in your collection depending on how you display them. But also just means that you're not having to take up so much real estate with them.
Yeah, no, I get that completely. From this picture here, you certainly have some massive pieces. All starting off with the Hawk,
Yeah.
even that Silver Surfer. I heard it's pretty deep. Is that right? Or
Yeah, it's very deep, and that also dictates how how you set up and what display shelves you use, right? So I definitely couldn't put that behind a shelf that has glass or whatever. Not that I'm even a fan of having collection behind glass, but you got to work with the space that you have, and that room, it looks big in some of the photos, but it's not the
yeah,
big space, and so you've got to be smarter with how you set it up so that you can maximize the space. You still have the collection displayed properly, but not overcrowd the space itself.
yeah. Because I think I know somebody else who has a surfer,
Mhm.
and they had to like kind of put it back in the box because like they just weren't prepared for how deep it actually like went.
Yeah.
What's the measurements on your shelves? Is it
Um. So I think the width. I think it's. I just measured it the other day, but I can't remember now. It's not the deepest, so I think depth is probably about 50 centimeters, 55 centimeters deep. Um,
okay? So that's about 21 inches, I think, for US.
yes, that's right. Yeah, something along that. So yeah, it's not the deepest shelves. So with this one here, I've got to put it in a bit of an angle so that, and you can see it's it sticks out. Luckily, this one's very back heavy, so the portal at the back is where a lot of the weight. And actually, if you sit this on a flat surface, he has a tendency to want to fall backwards because the base
Oh
at the back
wow.
is so heavy. So it actually works to my advantage because I could put it and have the front part sticking out of the display without having to worry about it tipping over because all the weight is going backwards. And it's hard because you can't really display it any other way. I mean, you can put it sideways, but you just don't get to see. You just don't get the best viewing angle. You can kind of put it flat on, but again, you kind of lose this view, which is probably, I think, the best way to
Oh
view it.
yeah. The portrait, or not the portrait, but the portal is painted very well.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember seeing this, and the first thing that came to mind was, I know it wasn't the best movie, but in that
Hellboy.
scene where he was coming through the building, that I thought that was really cool to see him for the first time properly, and that's what this piece reminded me of.
Hey, I'm a huge Doom fan, so I went back and watched both Fantastic Four 1, Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer, and I even watched the new one with Michael B. Jordan. All right, I'm a huge Doom fan, so I'm like, I gotta get some Fantastic Four in. And okay, the movies aren't that bad. Fantastic Four 1 and 2. Now the newest one, I didn't really care for it. But I watched it because Doom was in it. But I was just like, man, what did they do to my guy? What did they do to the Thing, man? Doom and the Thing. I'm like, what did you guys do to these two characters?
Yeah.
And they got to bring Silver Surfer back on screen. You got to, man. Come on.
All right. So if you could, I'm gonna hand it over to you, man. If you could fan cast anyone for Doom in the MCU, who would be your pick?
Oh gosh. Anyone for Doom? Oh man, dude, I'm trying to think, man. Because that's the thing. Like, I don't necessarily need an actor who looks a certain way because he's gonna mostly have on his mask. Let me see, man. I'm trying to think who I can come up with. Trying to think who I can come up with. Damn, who would you pick? I'm speechless on this.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure, man. It's hard to. I know there's been a few, fan casts online. It's been going around, but I don't know. I haven't really found anyone who I'd be like, yep, that's definitely Doom. I thought the guy that played him in the first two did a relatively good job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Cillian Murphy was one that was kind of being touted recently.
Okay.
He's the guy that played, what's the dude's name in the Batman films that had the mask?
Oh, he played Bane. Tom Hardy?
No, it was the doctor that was like doing I think it was like a doctor or a scientist. He had like that, looks like a brown bag that he puts over his head. What's that dude's name?
Hugo Strange, that guy?
I think that's. I'm not too familiar with the character, but the guy that plays that, I think, was one that was being kind of touted around as potentially being a Doom in the MCU. But yeah,
the audience says they want an unknown to play Doom, so he does it by adding a ton of money. Scarecrow.
Scarecrow, there you go. That's the Doom.
Yeah. Okay. Oh man, yep, Scarecrow. Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, Cillian Murphy. I think it's this.
Oh. Let me pull this up. Yeah, he played in freaking what's that show? I can't even think of the name of the show.
Peaky Blinders, right?
Yeah, Peaky Blinders.
Yes. Yeah.
I could see him playing Doom. I really could. There you go.
So
we got our Doom, man. We got our Doom. That's what's up, man.
Yeah,
That's what's up.
We'll see how they go. But hopefully, look, I'm really hoping that they do it well.
Yeah,
all the time in the world to and I hope they take their time because, it'll be a shame if they couldn't pull it off.
Right. So we're on the last leg of the show, man. It's been fun so far, but just a couple interesting things, man. So obviously you mentioned Australia. Then I heard you mention the Philippines. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's some traditional cuisine that still to this day is some of your favorites? Ooh. Something you would recommend somebody who's never had it.
All right. So, there's some of the classics like pork sinigang. I'm not sure if you ever heard of it. It's basically pork cooked in like tamarind base soup.
Okay.
Amazing. Yeah. Especially on a cold winter's night.
Okay.
Just have a bowl like steaming hot pork sinigang, amazing. You know, adobo is probably another classic. I used to be a real fan, but I've kind of, yeah, you know, here or there for me. Oh, there's too many, man. Like Filipino cuisine, it's just too good. Do you get? Is there a lot of like Filipino like restaurants or where you are or
Um,
big community?
I think there's a couple because maybe I'm thinking of the language is Tagalog, right?
Tagalog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think two of my coworkers are from there actually. Yeah. I had learned how to say like hello, but I forgot. I forgot. But yeah, man. But that's very interesting. Like I'm always down to try some good food, man. Like, we got
Yeah.
Nathan Chaffman in the chat. He was on one of the prior episodes, and he's in the military. And he was talking about some of the good food that he was trying over there and stuff like that. And it seems like all the military guys and just the people who are from different parts of the world have
Yeah.
all these good stuff that we just don't get every day, or they're able to tell us how it is. So I like that, man.
Yeah, man. I get, you know, that's the thing now, right? Being able to experience different cultures and different you know, things that you don't have to travel. You could
Mhm.
actually have it where you are. I think we've got to embrace that. I think we've got to appreciate it because you're right. You know, there's nothing better.
Nothing better, man. Nothing better. So I have a myth question for you. In the stateside, it is something seen growing up from Steve Irwin and people on TV. In Australia, is it kangaroos really just jumping around like everywhere? Is that really a thing?
It depends where you are. Yeah, I mean, look, if you're out in the countryside or you know, out out of the city, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, you can go to uh, stay at a place and you literally look outside your window and you'll just have kangaroos just hopping about. So yeah, there are certainly places like that, but
Are they
probably not.
dangerous?
Yeah, they can be. Yeah, 100%. Look at, you know,
Okay.
most of the times, you know, if you go near them, they'll run away from you, but not there's a huge red kangaroos. They look tank. It looks like they've been pumping iron since they're like show, right? They like tank,
Oh
and I would
man.
freak out if I saw one standing in front of me. I would definitely be running away. But yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
man. That is funny, man. So they look like they've been pumping iron, man.
Oh man, like they are huge, and they can do some. Yeah, like Edwin said, they can do some damage, man. Like,
Oh man, yeah. I don't want no parts in that, man. It seems like for you guys with kangaroos, it's for over here. We have like deer everywhere, to where like you
yeah.
literally could be driving and like a freaking deer just runs out and looks at you, and it's like, dude, like I almost crashed my car because you just want to stand here.
Oh man, it happens, especially if you're. You know, I grew up. You know, when I moved from the Philippines, I grew up in a place called Darwin, which is sort of like up the north of Australia, which I think you would call, I guess, the outback. So
Mhm.
there's a place where you would drive, and yeah, kangaroos will just jump out, man. And there's been like heaps of accidents, people just smashing into kangaroos, and some of those things are so big, they really do some damage. And you just have like road kills all over the side of the road. But we just recently had a situation where a guy who was looking after this kangaroo, the kangaroo actually ended up killing the bloke. Um,
What the heck?
yeah, yeah. So it was really odd. And then apparently the paramedics, they got there, and the police, they couldn't get to the guy because the kangaroo was standing over the dude and wouldn't let them go near him, so they couldn't treat him. Right. So this kangaroo was just kind of just protecting. Oh, I'm going to protect him. Well, he was just standing over this dude's body, and yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Right,
Shout
right.
out and hell yeah, Laxa for winning. Huh.
Oh, dude, that sounds crazy, man. So what are some is there any like Australian like folklore that's actually like true, I want to say. You know what I mean? Like
I was going to
is
say, is
there
there what? Well, I don't know. Are there any that you've heard or that want to validate?
like we got that movie It's like really popular. That Wolf Creek movie
Wolf Creek. Okay, yeah.
with the creepy guy. Like, is that do people really do that in Australia? Or they're like looking for tourists and stuff?
I wouldn't be surprised. We've definitely had a few. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure we've had a few of those stories come out. I know there was one that's quite well known. Actually, I can't recall who it was, but yeah, we've certainly had a few of those. But if you want like a folklore that you can tell anybody, have you ever heard of drop bears?
No.
All right, so in Australia, we like to tell this thing to people that come and visit, that we have what we drop bears, and basically they're like the cousin or family of the koala.
Mm-hmm.
They're a lot more vicious, and they just fall out of the tree and jump on you and just rip you to shreds. All right, so if you ever come to Australia, you got to watch out for drop bears.
Oh man, that's crazy, dude. That's crazy. But dude, I definitely appreciate the stories. So I have one last question for you, and this is always a question I end the show on. This is called the Mount Rushmore. You know what I mean? The top 4 Mount Rushmore can't be any more than 4. If you want to do an honorable mention 5th, you certainly can. I need you to give me your Mount Rushmore, your top 4. Since you're Marvel, we'll do Marvel. Your top 4 Marvel characters.
Yep. Well, obviously Iron Man being top of the list for me. So we'll go one from each. So Iron Man from the Avengers. I will go Gambit from the X-Men. And then we'll go 2 villains. I'll go Magneto.
Okay.
And then I would say it's a toss-up between Doom and Thanos, but I think I'm gonna give it to Thanos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanos. Okay. Thanos. Nice list. Do you have an honorable mention 5th? Outside of Doom, is there honorable mention 5th?
Just trying to think. I don't know. I'm tossing up between Daredevil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And who else? And you know what? This is really random, but I gotta go Pyro, man.
Wow.
I don't know why. I've always had this thing with people, like characters that have like fire,
yeah.
Thing. And I don't know. As a kid, I just thought, anyone who has like fire as their superpowers just be super cool. So I think Pyro for me. I think he even edges out the Human Torch for me.
Yeah. I seen you have Human Torch. You have Dark Phoenix with the flames. So
yes.
Nice, man. Nice.
Yeah, so
that's cool, man.
There, but I that's why I'd love to have him in a quarter scale version, man. I'd love to pair him with Iceman. Actually, I think they would look awesome together.
Yeah, cool, man. Cool. I know I said that was the last question, but I just have to get this one out here. Being outside of the U.S., with obviously having Sideshow in the U.S., and I guess that's really like the main one, because XM is Singapore and Prime One is what's Prime One? Japan, right? Yeah. So how is getting pieces in Australia? Does it take more time than other collectors? Is it a little bit more difficult to sell because of that, or?
Yeah, for sure. Things definitely take a little bit longer. Well, I think it depends, right? For custom pieces, I think it's probably about the same.
About the same, yeah.
You got to get it on the boat, because otherwise you'll pay a fortune trying to get it on.
But they're not coming from America; they're coming straight from the factory when you get them,
that's right. Coming from China, so a lot of the time. So I think oftentimes it actually probably gets to us a little bit quicker than it would over in the US.
Yeah.
Offloading or selling, well, yeah, I guess so, because Australia is a relatively, I think we've still got a relatively small community of collectors in Australia. Whereas the US, obviously, there's probably a huge community of collectors there, so it's probably easier to offload things.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely cost to try to get to Australia it's definitely up there. With shipping, it's pretty crazy. And if you're going through like legit stores or licensed retailers, we've got one here called Pop Culture. Really odd, because I think what happens is I think they get their stock actually from Sideshow, if I'm not mistaken. So they'll basically have to wait until Sideshow gets their stocks, and then send it to Australia to get their stocks. So it definitely can take a lot longer. So if I, for example, I can order a piece from Sideshow and get it 2-3 months, maybe even 6 months before it even becomes available from a local retailer here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
that is crazy, man. With my one and only custom Loki, I waited legitimately 1 year from the time I first paid to got it in my doorstep. It was 1 year. I don't know if I came in like towards the tail end of the PO closing. I don't know that part, but I was just like, for 1 year, that really ain't bad. So I was happy with it, but
It's
I can only
patience.
imagine having to wait that long, man.
Yeah, man, it's you got to have a lot of patience in this hobby, that's for sure. Especially if you're talking customs, Or actually, I think XM probably has the quickest turnaround. Sometimes they'll announce
Oh
in
yeah.
a month or two they're out, right? So
Yeah.
that's not the case with customs, man. Like customs, and there's also that challenge because a lot of the times you're jumping in on this POs based on a render. You don't know how it's going to turn out or how it translates to print. So, it's a risk that you take sometimes.
True, which is the reason why I took that risk, just because Loki being a top character and not getting him from anywhere else. So for me, the risk was worth it to have that character. Just like with Bullseye, if they do a Bullseye, I'm probably gonna take the risk. Like I'll try it out.
Well, paid off, man. That pace that you've got is an absolute killer.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. Thank you very much. And dude, I can't thank you enough for coming, man. It's been fun. It feels good to bring the show back. I've always find it like very interesting talking to other people. Every collector is a different age, different background, different financial situation, living situation. And it's always good to see other people's collection pieces, where their journey started to where they are now, because I think that's what makes us unique as collectors, is that we can all come together, no matter who you are, male or female or etc., and just kind of like for the love of these characters, who are fictional, but to a lot of us, they've kind of become, part of who you are as a person. So dude, I can't thank you enough. I definitely will try to, invite you back in the future. And hey, maybe some point I can even ask you for a room tour, man, because I definitely like your setup. It's clean, it's well lit. I love that. Thank you, man. Can't thank you enough.
I appreciate it, man. I really, really appreciate you inviting me onto the channel, and for everybody that tuned in, thank you all. I know it's a bit of a long period to take out of your day, but no, appreciate it and love what you're doing with this channel, man. Especially with bringing collectors like this together, and like you said, it's always nice to chat to people share the same passion and like-minded. So no, I really appreciate it, and thank you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And before we get out of here, just to tell you guys something, hit in the description as well as the end of this video. You can click on the end of the video, or you can read the description. It's going to be an entry point to how you can enter into the 900 subscriber giveaway. It's going to be a Incredible Hulk Volume 1 and Volume 2, Mighty Master Works by Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, and Jack Kirby, as well as a Incredible Hulk 11 by 17 art print. So once we hit 900 subs, we'll give that away. I believe we're at like 851 or something like that. So once we hit that, we'll do that giveaway. So appreciate you guys. If anybody else does want to come onto the show, send me an email, shoot me a Facebook message. We'll bring you on. And last but not least, the show is not going to be back on every Thursday. It's going to be moved to Sundays, but it'll probably be one or two guests a month now, just due to work and trying to like create that work stream type balance, so to say. But thank you guys for coming, supporting one last time. Erwin, appreciate you, man. And hey, as always, guys, Cash out.
Put some cash in your life, put some cash in your life. If your cash ain't right, if your cash ain't right, put some cash in your life, put some cash in your life. Cause what's a credit score when you got your cash right?